good. Okay, check the recorder. Yep, it's recording just fine. All right. So the other day, my kids were fighting over, they always fight over something, right? I mean, before we had technology, it'll be marbles, okay? You got the shinier marble, or you got a blue marble. I want a blue marble too. But these days they fight over the computer, the one that can run Minecraft. Okay, because I have one i3 laptop computer that is kind of old. And as an i3 computer with less RAM, it didn't run Minecraft very well. Okay, it could run it for, I would say, about 3 minutes or so, and then it starts to bog down and becomes really slow, and then it's not really playable. And then I have an i7 laptop computer that I recently bought, and both kids wanted to play with a new computer. So it just came to my realization that my wife and I would look at the computer as a tool. Okay, this is what you use for homework, for work, and maybe casual looking up websites like news websites or weather websites and stuff like that, but not really as a primary tool for entertainment. But kids, my kids, okay, 8 and 12, would look at a computer as a portal to everything. And also the kind of games that we play, my wife and I would occasionally play some video games. She likes, what is the name of the game? It's basically just rearranging blocks. It's not Tetris, it's... No, it's the one that you flip blocks horizontally, and then it has to color match, and then the blocks will collapse.
Yeah, Bejeweled, something along those lines.
Can't remember the name, but it's one of those games, okay? So one of those puzzle games. Sorry?
What game you play?
I play Robots versus Zombie on Miniclip. And to me, it's just trying to get a higher score than last time. Try to optimize how I play that game. And it's not a social kind of thing at all. I mean, I'm all by myself, okay, this time I'll time myself, I got to build this thing, before that, and I would try to rearrange things of, how I do things, the steps, and see if I can, get to the end, faster or get a higher score. But my kids, when they play, video games, it's actually a social kind of thing, okay? My son, got a play date the other day. He invited one of his friends over, and of course, right away they were on the computers. They were playing, a few different games. But you know what? During the entire thing, they were just talking to each other and laughing and just giggling the whole time. They were on the same game, on the same server, and they could see each other's avatar. Okay, and they were just talking the whole time. It was completely, social. It's not like each one is just playing his game, on his computer. It's social, and that just kind of dawned on me, how I look at video game and look at computers in one way, and then my kids, look at the same thing, but in an entirely different way. I mean, he's still not getting enough exercise because, spending too much time in front of the computer. But at the same time, he's not getting quote unquote isolated either. He's not like, playing his own game and completely be isolated from everybody else. He's actually, oh, Kenneth is online. He's just excited to see his friends, avatar, appearing in the game, and then started to chat about that with the other friend who's actually physically next to him, on another computer. So to me, it's interesting because that relates to one of the things that we have to talk about in this class, which is one of the last one here.
Sounds like your kid's addicted to games.
So am I. But as I said, early in the class, we were addicted to different games, and to my son, the games is basically a socialization type of tool. So that he can talk about things with his friends at school. To me, it's really just killing time, or I'm stressed out. I need to do something that I'm familiar with, to kind of relax. Yes, killing zombies is relaxing sometimes. Wait, zombies cannot be killed; they're already dead.
Mutilating.
Yeah,
De-animating.
De-animate. Okay, very good. That's the right word to use. But that really is, social impact of technology. That really is what it is. And then when you look at, I think we talked about this already in the past. In the really, really good old days, the whole family would gather around the fireplace in the winter, and then talk about things. And then we have televisions, okay? But televisions were expensive to begin with, so the entire family has to share one. And now televisions are inexpensive, and nobody wants to watch TV anymore. Yep.
There was actually another thing you kind of jumped over, like radio shows.
Oh, radio shows.
That's like a dead art nowadays.
They still have radios. They have online radios now.
I'm saying like radio
regular
shows where like they have like an almost like a voice actor just like narrating like a story that's going on.
I grew up with that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like you can find actually similar kind of things on like YouTube nowadays. Where, like I said, it's kind of like a dying art, but sometimes you get really good ones.
Yep, and it's a difference. You appreciate it differently compared to other forms of art and creative media. But yes, I can understand that also. And in the good old days, a radio was expensive, okay, and huge, right? One family has one radio, and that's it. And then they got miniaturized, they got inexpensive, and then all the kids just have one little Walkman, okay, with a cassette, and they put in their headphones, right? So it's kind of interesting how technology changes the whole thing about entertainment, and it can all be individualized instead of the whole family has to share the same thing, so we are all going to listen to one show, right? No, I want to listen to this show, and that's it. And these days with tablets, cell phones, and whatnot, they can just watch their own show on their own little device and just ignore what other people are doing. In other words, they can choose. They can choose to watch something together. They can also choose to do their own individual thing. Technology has enabled these things. Whereas before, if they want to do something individually, well, they can pick up a book, I guess, so I can just read my own book. Yeah, but now it's different, very different. So any feedback from you guys, regarding all that stuff that I just talked about? No. And even the advanced gamers of the entire CIS department, I will not name the names. Even those people play games that are individual. They don't play network games. They don't play games as a social kind of thing. They only play games as an entertainment, and also relaxation, but not really a social kind of thing. Yep.
Have you heard about the game Sims?
SimCity?
SimCity.
I heard about how they had a snafu.
That's a mild way to putting it.
And upset a lot of people in the process.
Yeah. My daughter, she just created my family in the SimCity.
Uh-huh.
And they have their own personality.
Uh-huh.
She has to put all kind of, behavior that we have.
Yeah.
And they have different outcomes. It's very funny.
Yeah.
And another thing is that my two kids, they were raised with games. Actually, they do internet games with the other cousins. And I don't know if the girls have very good into it, but my daughter, she's very good into games.
Mm-hmm.
And,
But games are very addicting. Can anyone guess why games are addicting? I mean, they're much more addicting than even television, TV. Yep.
Instant gratification.
It's instant gratification. Yep, go ahead. You want to say the same thing? No?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yep. Instant gratification was one, and go ahead.
A lot of people like games where you have to work for something to get a reward.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not just instantly gratified, but you're actually challenged.
Mm-hmm. And some of these games also give you a lot of possibility in terms of creativity. Like my son, my 8-year-old son, he likes Minecraft because Minecraft actually gives you the possibility of building your own house, designing your shelter, and designing the defense against is it called Enderman and all the spiders and all the other creepy stuff that comes out at night. So he and his sister has they just talk in the entire week about strategies of how to do things, And then during the weekend, which is the only time I let them actually play the game, they would implement all the things that they talk about throughout the entire week. So that's kind of interesting too. It's not like just playing games like, oh, okay, I'm playing games. No, it's a whole process. It's almost like engineering, for the entire week. There was a hand earlier. Go ahead.
As far as kids go, you say cartoons is a big
Cartoons.
cartoon.
It used to be a big thing. I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to watch Ultraman. I wanted to watch Voltron and all the other shows, because it gives you a sense of adventure. But nonetheless, it is still the adventure of somebody else that you cannot control. But when you're playing with Minecraft or many of the other games online, you are in charge of your own adventure. And the quote-unquote universe within the game is flexible enough that you can actually do a lot of different things, or the possibilities, even though it's not endless, there's still enough to be very, very entertaining. So my kids don't want to watch TV anymore. I mean, it's like turn on the TV and nobody sits in front of the TV, no matter what show is on or what time it is. They just ignore the TV entirely. Yep.
There's a game that is, I don't know the name, but it's called like a New York City, built in New York City. My daughter, what she does is she borrows money from one bank. And she starts building a coffee shop. But she make a lot of money selling.
So that's actually good experience for life too.
Yeah, it's very good. Really,
Yeah.
She has to make a calculation. Mathematical calculation to build a bridge. And buildings.
Yep.
Pretty good though.
I remember how I spent 3 days straight, on StarCraft. I have to get past this level, because you have to build things in a certain way, and then the enemy or the computer enemy will attack in a certain pattern. So you have to kind of figure out how to do it in just the right way, so that you can stop the initial attack and still have enough time to build up the technology and stuff like that. So in by itself, playing games is not like playing Tetris or some of the older games where it's just really eye-hand coordination. You actually have to spend a lot of time to actually think about it and derive a strategy to finish some of those games. So I think that's kind of interesting. It does change almost every aspect of life because of these devices. Any questions? No questions? Well, let's get back to something that's kind of boring and also affects your grade. It's your presentation. So we will have a presentation at the end of this semester. How many people like presentations? Like, I'm just dying to have my presentation and tell the class about something that I know. Okay, very good.
Well, I have a slight idea of what I want to do for my presentation.
Okay, all right. But not a whole lot of people seem excited about the presentations.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's talk about why we're doing the presentation first, because I don't want to just say, okay, we have to do presentations, even though we have to do it. But I do want to tell you guys why it is important to have, presentations like, at the end of a class like this. We have industry partners, basically our advisory committee. Every year we meet and we ask them, okay, what do you value as employees? As a computer information science employee, or ICT, information and computer technology employee. And they will talk about all the technical stuff like, programming languages or networking or computer security, blah, 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 and all kinds of technical stuff. But the part that they emphasized the most was actually the soft skills. Now, when I talk about soft skills, I'm talking about personal communication, written communication, oral communication, how to treat other people in the organization, how to handle issues with other people. All the basically non-technical things, they are actually becoming more and more and more important, even in computer-related line of works. So presentation is a very important skill. I mean, knowing how to do a presentation is important. And I want to just talk about this part here, just this particular sentence. Not only is it important when you have a job, when you have to interact with your colleagues in a way to make sure that you can get things done and not get into a lot of stressful situation, but to begin to have a job, to get a job, what do you need to do? Well, unless you're, the descendant of somebody famous with a big corporation, that's just waiting for you to fill a spot. For most of us, we have to get an interview, right, to get a job. And what do you think an interview is? It really is a presentation. Okay, it's a presentation. So you have to kind of speak confidently, have eye contact. All of the same things that you have to do for this presentation, they're equally important when you have a job interview. Okay? Is that making any sense? So even though we have computers to process resume and stuff like that, in the end, whether a particular employer will hire you or not still depends on an actual interview. Now there are organizations where you can send in like a YouTube presentation of yourself to basically get your foot in the door, but in the end you still have to have an in-person interview with your potential employer so that they can decide whether to hire you or not. They will never hire someone just out of a YouTube presentation. All right, so are there any questions about the rationale of, or the importance of presentation skills? No questions? Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. You're talking about you, at the end of the class, you want a presentation.
Yes.
And it's going to basically be like a resume.
No. It's not your resume. You have to present a topic that is related to this class. So stuff that we have talked about.
Okay, so if the topic is going to be related to this class,
that stuff is coming.
Okay, you're saying the topic is going to be related to this class, but what I'm trying to figure out is this. Okay, I know since I've been in this class, you've been talking about a lot of gaming. You can talk about gaming. Other things that's dealing with computers.
Right.
And stuff, but you haven't really touched on what other people may turn around and do. Because see, other people may turn around and have an interest within audio, and they may have an interest in video. And see, with me, I got an interest in video and audio because that's what I do on my computer as far as that. But you talk about a lot of gaming. So, okay, if I'm going to do a presentation, now is it going to have to be gaming wise? Because that's what you've been talking about. No,
it doesn't have to be.
That's what I'm saying. Because that's what you've been talking about. You talk about gaming.
Could you let me finish this part? Then you can ask me.
Okay.
Okay? Because I'm pretty sure most other students have the same questions, so I appreciate your questions and making sure that I'm inclusive enough that whatever you're interested in can also be used as a presentation topic. But let me finish first, and then you can go ahead and make sure that what you're interested in can also be a topic of your own presentation. Okay. All right. So let's go over the the really kind of important part of your presentation first. It's not going to be a long presentation. I can only allocate about 3 minutes for the actual presentation part. Okay, so this is not including how to set up, tear down, walking to the front of the classroom, that sort of thing. This is like, okay, now you start your presentation, and then now you stop your presentation. You got about 3 minutes. Okay, a short presentation is not necessarily easier compared to a long presentation, because how do you pack the information into exactly 3 minutes and still have the presentation to be meaningful to the audience, which is your fellow classmates? That's actually not as easy as you think. You really have to go through rehearsals, okay, to kind of time yourself, how fast or how slow you can go over each topic, how many slides to prepare, and so on and so forth. Okay. I will allocate plus 5 minutes of time, including turnaround time, like how to set up, and people come up here, they want to log into their own website, they want to log into Prezi, so I'll allow 2 minutes in addition to the actual 3-minute presentation per student. Yep. No, I do not. I think we have gone past the last day to drop a class. Is that? Yeah. So it doesn't really matter because I cannot drop people anymore. So I think the next time we meet on Thursday, like half the class will disappear because, you cannot drop me anymore. Okay, so topics can be anything that is quote-unquote a topic in Moodle. Okay, so let me just kind of go back to the top portion of this class. If you look at all the topics, so even though many of the topics do not have actual links, and that's because we went over some of those topics, but I never really kind of wrote down anything. But if you look at those things and you say, well, that's something that interests me. Okay, anything that is written here that you think will interest you is going to be okay as a topic. For instance, some of you may be a systems analyst already, or you're already practicing something equivalent to systems analysis. Go ahead and talk about flow charting, what a systems analyst do, or what you actually do at work. That's fine with me. If you want to, let's see here. If you want to talk about, what I just talked about a little bit earlier, about how computer changed your way of life, or how you can observe how it's changing the lives of your children or nieces or nephews, or people who are young, or even people who are older. Okay, you go to one of those elderly homes, and then you say, okay, has computers really changed their way of life? Okay, you can talk about that. You can talk about ethical issues, ethical conduct. Okay, I think I got one student 1 year who wanted to talk about trolling on the internet. Okay, well, that's fine. Tell people what it is, okay, and how to deal with it. If you, yeah, or if you or somebody else that has experience with cyber bullying, and you think it's an important topic, and you want to share what you know about cyber bullying, bring it up. Okay, that's perfectly okay for a presentation. You guys have some doubts?
I do. The thing is that you want us to use these other. I don't know how to do a PowerPoint. I don't know how to use Microsoft Office, whatever you got up there. That's not something that you showed us in class here. And I'm really concerned that that's going to affect my grade when I don't even know how to use that.
Okay. Well, we can spend some time and talk about how to use it. You don't have to make it very fancy. Okay, just be able to make some slides and use the computer to project the content that you want to talk about is already good enough. Yep.
Okay, so in that time, you want us all to have a computer to be able to do our presentation, or you want us to be able to draw it up on the board?
If you guys are not comfortable with using a computer to do it, I think you can use a flip chart. Would that be okay?
What's a flip chart?
How about big Post-its? Gigantic Post-its.
I like that one. I like that term better.
Gigantic Post-its, you can actually get those things from Home Depot or Office Depot. Okay, they make Post-its. There are. I don't have one here, but they're poster-sized, Post-its. Okay, so you can basically draw whatever you want, all the topics, on a Post-it, like gigantic one, prior to the class. Bring it to the class, and then just paste it on the whiteboard as you go over the topics. Yep.
I took a speech class. What happened is that when you do presentations, you have to time it yourself. And if
Right.
you do PowerPoint, which is I love it, the teacher recommended to don't use it, and because she wants to, evaluate what I'm talking. In 3 minutes is not enough. And before that, we have to make an outline, like an essay, introductions, more details, and a conclusion.
Right.
You have to minute a sentence for 3 minutes. So which one do you want to prepare? How long for the PowerPoint?
Well, the whole presentation is only 3 minutes. So whatever material you prepared, you have to finish it in 3 minutes. So what I'll do is I'm going to change my requirements here so that you don't have to use PowerPoint presentation, and you can use whatever visual aid you feel comfortable with, but there has to be visual aid. Okay, so it can be on paper, can be on screen. You can use Prezi, you can use PowerPoint. So you can use presentation visual aid is required, so that is still required. You can use Google document presentation, which I think is a quick and easy way to do things. Microsoft Office PowerPoint, Prezi, LibreOffice Impress, or any other visual aid, including paper-based methods. Okay, the only one thing that I don't want people to do is to use the whiteboard during the presentation. Okay, so go to Office Depot, okay, or just get some big pieces of paper, prepare the material before the class. If you want to, I can bring my not duct tape, the other kind of tape. No, it's masking tape. That's it. So I can bring my masking tape, and I can help you guys, tape all your stuff, on the whiteboard, prior to your presentation. Okay. So technology is not, the key part here. The key part is preparing for the presentation and have the content and have the organization. Yep.
So we can get the paperboard thing, like whatever you said, and then we can
Yeah.
put pictures on that, and then have our presentation on paper.
Yes, but the entire class has to be able to. We have to be able to see it.
Know what I'm saying? The words of the presentation that we're saying can be on paper, but
Yes,
we can have our
absolutely.
picture on
Yep.
the thing.
Yep.
And then as we're talking from the paper, we can relate to the picture. That's
Remember Ross Perot? He used flip charts very effectively. Go over some of his presentations when he was running for presidency. Yep.
What is the order for,
Who's going to present
Yeah,
first?
exactly.
That kind of thing. We'll get to that point
Okay.
too. Yep. Okay, so I have just amended my document here. So now paper-based presentation material is also allowed, which is okay. That's fine. I will still go over how to make a presentation in software, just so that more people will be enabled to do it. Yep. You have to be presenting live. So you can use a video only as a clip, maybe 5-10 seconds. Okay, but not the entire thing.
Like Ustream would be okay?
Sorry?
Like a Ustream would be okay?
Ustream?
Like if you streamed me and I was doing my presentation?
No, you have to be here, standing here. Just think about this as your interview. Okay, do you think your potential employer will let you do a stream and go, okay, this is me, and yep.
Okay, they asked the question about, doing the video. Now, okay, as far as you said, it's gonna be as an interview. Since it's in a class format, and you're talking about use paper, is it any way that a person can be able to go ahead and video that stuff? It's just like even if you're doing PowerPoint, you can turn around and still do video.
No,
PowerPoint.
in this case, you have to be standing here to do a live presentation.
Okay, but can they be able to, if they don't want to put the post-it up on the board,
Okay.
but they can turn around and do a video on what they're doing, but they still can stand up there and show what they're talking about.
You can
Is
do
there
it this
any
way.
They can do that?
Okay, if you're more comfortable with a video editing software than, say, PowerPoint, so what you can do is to use your video editing software to prepare, quote unquote, the slides. So in the class or when you're presenting, so what you can do is you can hit the play button and your slides will show, but you still have to be the one talking and having eye contact with the audience.
Right.
To deliver the content, but your visual aid can be video based, but your video probably should not have a whole lot of audio content because you'll be talking. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I know
Yep.
that.
Okay.
I understand that. I was just asking because is some people may not be as comfortable in trying to get paperwork up on the board to where they can end up just writing it down and video it, but willing to turn around and be up front while you're showing it on the screen. You see what I'm saying?
Not exactly.
Oh, okay. It's just like me. Okay, I can turn around just like you got a screen right there,
Yeah.
showing everything on there. I may have videotaped it, but I can turn around and come up where you at and say, okay, this is what I'm describing, and do it from that point. it's kind of like what you said. They're saying that they would have to be right there to show exactly what they do.
Okay, so the bottom line is the talking has to be you live during the
Right.
presentation, but you can use the screen as a visual aid, or you can use the whiteboard. You can also use paper. Well, not the whiteboard, but you can use paper-based product for your visual aid.
Right, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Some people may not can go out there and get the big post-it.
Right. Oh, you know what?
But
Okay.
they can turn around and
I just remember
use
one
their
thing.
phone or whatever it may be, and
Right.
put it on the SD card. And,
Yeah, so the
and
presentation is live, but you can use, a video as an aid. Okay, I just have one more thing, as a tool to help you guys, okay? For those of you who don't want to invest in a, presentation board and stuff like that, I got just the right tool for you. Because I got Elmo. Not that kind of Elmo, but the other Elmo.
You have our attention.
Okay, so you look up Elmo, and then you find Elmo as, the one in Sesame Street. That's not the Elmo I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Elmo which is called a document camera. So this will be helpful for those of you who don't want to, spend the time and all the ink and all the, all the effort to draw, stuff. We'll just take a look at this one here. Just different color. I didn't actually buy an Elmo, but an Elmo-like product. This is what we call a document scanner or document viewer camera, whatever you want to call that. It's kind of like a lamp. Okay, it's about yay tall, and what it does is it has a camera. Okay, so this part here is a camera that can look at the surface of maybe a paper, that's A4 size or letter size. So what you can do is you can do all this stuff, all your slides, in letter size. Okay, and then during the class, during your presentation, all you have to do is to put it under, a device like this one. I just bought one, for my own classes, but you guys can borrow it if you want to during the presentation. So that way you can do it exactly the same way as Ross Perot. Okay, you can just prepare, small size, slides. Okay, you can print it out. You can hand draw it. But I think printing is probably better. And then as you go over the topics, you can use a pen or pencil and just kind of point to the line that you are talking about. Whatever you're focusing on, and it will be projected on the screen like this. Would that be helpful? All right. So you have all the technology available to you. You can use paper-based product, life-size actual paper-based visual aid. You can have a letter-size presentation slide, and you can use a device like this to project to the entire screen here. Okay. You can have a PowerPoint presentation if you are comfortable with PowerPoint. If you're comfortable with Prezi, which I think is really cool, but it can be distracting at the same time, you can use Prezi. The tool itself is not going to be your grade. In other words, a low-tech approach does not mean you will automatically get a lower grade. It has to do with the content on the medium. Okay. In other words, someone can use PowerPoint and make a super fancy scrolling, swirling, fading, and all the other special effects. If there's no content, that presentation will still get a low score. If someone has a lot of information, well organized, well presented, okay, even if it's hand drawn on a piece of paper, it can still get like a top score. Okay, would that be okay? Would that be fair? All right. So, and I'm getting this, I think, I was hoping I would get this today, but it seems like it won't be shipped in time for Thursday. But next Tuesday, for sure I will have it. So I'll bring it in, and you guys can kind of see what it is. But that's basically what it is. I just kind of described it. I can put it here. Okay. So what I can do is I can put it here. It looks like a little lamp, with a camera about yay high. You put your slide under that, and then you can just talk, from your slide. It's just that somehow you have to maintain eye contact with your audience during the time, which kind of brings me back to the note here. All right, so are we okay with this part here, the presentation visual aid? No, I do not, but
Wireless mouse?
it is a wireless mouse.
Okay, that's good enough.
So you can actually, if you have a PowerPoint presentation, you can actually just click it, the
Yeah.
mouse. Yeah. So, that's the best I can do.
If I would have to sit there when I did my presentation with a PowerPoint or something.
I don't know the range of this, but I think it's good enough for, what a presentation, what we need to do for in a presentation like this. It's probably not good enough for Bill Gates or Steve Ballmer,
I'm not
Microsoft presentation. But for this, I think it'll be okay. All right. Well, we can actually find out pretty easily because I can stand here and do a right click. Yep. And use my finger as a. No, I don't want to go back. Okay, got to cancel it because I don't want to undo the changes. There we go.
Is it gonna matter what version of PowerPoint you use?
It just has to be one that I can show. So you have to make sure that we have the software to do it.
Yeah, so
I'm not going to run Linux. It will just be running Windows, which I think we have the
on
latest
DVD,
Office.
It's just your version and what might be run.
If it's an earlier version, it would be fine. Okay, it's just that if you have the latest and greatest version of Microsoft Office, we may not have it here. Okay, you can use room 152, our computer lab, as a testing ground because I think we have exactly the same version of software over there too. All right.
Now, I was just asking because I'm running just Windows 8 right now, so.
Okay. The Windows is not the issue; it's the application that may be an issue.
Well, I have, Office 213.
Office 2013. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in Office 2013, if you worry about backward compatibility, when you save the presentation, you can save it as an earlier version of PowerPoint kind of file. So just choose to save it as 2007 or 2010, Office 2010, and we should have no problem opening it here. Okay. All right. So choose a topic that you are interested. In which you're interested, but it has to be related to this course or whatever topic we have discussed in class. In other words, it doesn't have to be something that is already printed on the website. It can be something that I just casually mentioned in the class. For instance, we mentioned Raspberry Pi. Okay, Raspberry Pi is a small little Linux box that can be battery powered. Okay, and if that is something that you have already explored and you want to do something regarding that topic, go ahead and do it. That's fine. If you want to look into gaming, you want to showcase your PC that you put together for gaming purposes, go ahead and do it. Because we spend a lot of time to talk about the motherboards, selection of processors, video cards, RAM, and so on and so forth. You can showcase your PC. Take pictures of your PC, put it into a PowerPoint presentation, and then you can talk about it. Okay, talk about why you chose a particular processor, why you chose a particular motherboard. Just make sure that the audience can understand all those terms. So you might want to go through some explaining too. I'll answer your question and then yours. Yep, go ahead.
So this presentation can be a how-to?
Yep, completely. Can be a how-to, can be your commentary on some topic, like how you agree or does not agree with e-voting. Okay, that can be a topic too.
And a lot was mentioned in this class. And
Yes.
So say I brought up something that you mentioned very long ago that we might have forgotten. Should I bring it up to you? Email you about it?
We'll talk about how to request a topic. And we'll go through that process too. Let me answer your question too.
Yeah. Can one of the topics be on informing people about computer safety? How
Yes. Yeah, how to what kind of antivirus software to install, that sort of thing.
Yeah, getting keeping sand at your computer and cleaning it or stuff like that.
All right. Yeah, you can do that. Go ahead.
What if I wanted to discuss something about being a PC technician?
That's a pretty broad topic. You have to make sure that your topic can fit into 3 minutes. It can be a description of what you actually do as a PC technician. It can be how to become a PC technician, like what you have to learn, and how do you get a job as a PC technician, job outlook, that sort of thing. So it has to be kind of self-contained within 3 minutes.
I understand.
Okay, go ahead.
I can't remember, but I think it's like was vaguely touched upon. Hacking, ethical hacking, and unethical hacking. Did we go through that particular little subject?
We have not in this class, but that's a good topic too. We can basically talk about the various types of hacking and possibly legal consequences. Okay, so even if you're not, even if you're doing ethical hacking, can you still get into legal trouble? What type of law applies in that case, and how do you avoid getting into problems like that, and why do you think the laws are established the way they are, and so on and so forth. I mean, you can. So that's a valid
topic.
Yep. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. So I know you guys have a lot of questions about the topic, so we'll address that in just a little bit. Grading is going to be rubric based. So basically, we have F, D, C, B, A, and it's just really a description of how to get a particular grade with one particular aspect. So we'll go over this first, and then we'll go talk about the request of topics and also day of presentation. Eye contact is very important. Okay, why do you think eye contact is important in a presentation? Yep.
I had it, it's gone now.
What if you're talking to me and I'm going like, okay, go ahead, tell me why eye contact is important.
Okay.
Because it's very rude.
Well, why is it rude?
Because you're supposed to.
You're not engaged. That's the thing. You're not engaging your audience.
Exactly.
That's
it's almost
what it
I'm not paying attention to you, right? Go ahead.
No,
Yep. And it has to do with how we are wired as as human beings. It has to do with how we are wired. We can spot whether someone is looking at you, just like that. Okay, our peripheral vision can see that. Okay, and that's why when you get to a stoplight, okay, and some people can detect like within a millisecond, the next guy is looking at him and is like, yeah, let's race. Okay, they don't even have to turn their head, and they realize they know exactly what they're for. They're just revving the engine and getting ready for the red light to turn green. Okay, so as human beings, we have a very quick way of acquiring facial expression for one thing, interpreting facial expression, and also seeing whether other people are looking at you or not. Okay, and that's just how we are wired. Okay, lizards, for instance, do not really care. In fact, they can have one eye looking this way and the other eye looking this way.
You sit there saying, since the eye visual is supposed to be there, and you basically saying just because they don't look at you is just showing that they're not paying attention to you, right?
Yep. Yep. Well, eye contact is would you choose a precedent when the candidate in a presentation just never looked at the audience, never looked at the camera? Probably not, right?
You asked me any questions? The question is, when it comes down to eye contact is this. If I'm looking at a person I'm talking to them, if they're not looking me dead in the eye, then therefore I'm going to judge them because they're either lying or they're trying to hide something.
Okay. Well, in this class, I don't judge people. I don't judge people whether they're lying or not. I'm just looking at eye contact from the perspective of being an effective presenter.
But the reason why I said that, because see, that's what cops look at. They look at you. They look at when you're talking to them. You turn around and moving your eye contact a different way, whether it's going to the left or to the right. They are already programmed to know that you're either lying or you're telling the truth. So therefore, the eye contact, yes, is very important, and it's very important as far as going to an interview. At the same time, when you're dealing with anybody else that's dealing with like law enforcement, you have to turn around and show them that you're not lying. And
right.
Habitual liars can turn around and pass that, but the normal people when they turn around trying to do things, they're gonna either do telltale signs, and that's gonna show that the officer, is looking at you like, okay, you're not telling the truth here. It's something that's going on.
Yep. So it is important. So in this case, it's. Yep. Go ahead.
I'll have to disagree because some people like anxiety without.
And it's cultural too. Okay, in certain cultures, it is impolite to look at somebody in the eye. But in this class, I think, since we're in this particular society where eye contact is valued, so it is one of the things that I'm looking for in this class. Okay, in the presentation. What you do outside of the presentation is not really my concern, and it would not, critique or judge that. But in the class, in the presentation, this is important. Okay. Okay. How do you practice eye contact? Okay. I know that when you guys are in the class, I can see that you guys are looking at me, and when you talk to each other, which is okay occasionally, you also have good eye contact. But eye contact in a one-to-one communication, as opposed to eye contact with in an entire class, is a little bit different. So how do you think that's different? Because I want to give you some psychological preparation before you come up here and then go like, oh, okay, yep.
Because you're not making eye contact, you're having a conversation with one specific person.
Yep.
You don't want to be staring at one person. That would be really weird.
Awkward.
Yeah. But
Well, not the entire time. Okay. Yep.
But also it means that you don't have to look at anyone at all. It's just the appearance of looking.
Right.
Right.
So what you need to do is to find a few people, like from one end to the other end, and then you just kind of move your focus from one person to the next, 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 to the next. But you don't want to scan like that. Okay. You're not Knight Rider. You're not Knight Rider, the car. I know some of you are way too young to remember Knight Rider. It has an eye that's scanning like. And mixing that swishing sound, at the same time. So that would not be a good, presentation style either, is to scan your audience like this, So you kind of have to stay on one person for maybe 2 seconds or so, for each person, and just kind of go around the classroom, and then make sure that the entire class feels that they're getting the attention getting your attention during the presentation. You can practice that a little bit by having your family maybe to get together. And just make your whatever presentation you want to make to your family. Okay, just have you on one side, and then everybody else on the other side. Okay, so that's one way to do a little practice. I'm not going to grade this based on the standard of a presidential presentation. Okay, so I'm not holding you to the same kind of expectation as presidents or other professors. You will be amongst your peers. Okay, so this is all based on what I expect from students in a class like this. So are there any questions about eye contact? Presentation graphics, it has to be complete, relevant, and obvious. Extra effort is put into it in order to get the highest grade. And this applies to paper-based, and any type of presentation. So even if it's done on a piece of paper, the use of the thoughtful use of colors can be considered as extra effort. Okay, so instead of the whole thing being black and white and just using a default font, and instead there are different highlights, different color to represent different things that are meaningful. That tells me that somebody has put in extra effort into thinking about, okay, I want to make my slide more effective, and how do I make use of colors? How do I make use of maybe border lines, stuff like that, just to make it a little bit more stand out and to get people to pay attention to the slides. Okay. Any questions about presentation graphics? Yep.
If you are doing it on paper, can you use like pictures?
Absolutely. So if you have pictures, you can include pictures in different ways.
Will it show up on that thing?
I have not tried it out, but I would expect it to have no problem picking up pictures. In fact, one of the things that you can do with that device that is hard to do with an actual prepared slideshow is if you want to bring along, let's say, a video card of some kind, and you want to kind of point out different things, you can put your video card under the camera and then use a pointer to start to point at different things, and you can rotate it, turn it around, and then point out different things, because it's not a 3D thing. People cannot see 3D on the screen, but at the same time, it gives you the flexibility of actually turning something around and flipping it upside down and then point out different things on that particular device. So in a certain way, that type of presentation actually has a certain advantage over a flat, prepared type of presentation. But yes, I think the pictures will show up. Okay, it may not at the high resolution. So if you have pictures where there's a lot of detail in the shadow or the highlight, in photographic terms, that may not show up. But if your picture looks easily, you can easily tell the features under normal lighting, then it should show up just fine. And you don't have to include the picture within on the paper. You can just cut up a picture or a copy of a picture and just paste it on a piece of paper too. So you don't have to know how to use photo editing software or anything like that. You can do everything just using physical ways. Just tape pictures on it, and that'll be fine too. All right. So are there any other questions about presentation graphics? Now the key part here is the graphic has to be.
I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
How many papers? 2, 3? What do you mean? How many do you think you need?
Well, that depends on how much stuff you put onto each sheet of paper. Okay, and there's a particular science or particular guideline to all that too. How much stuff would you stuff onto one slide, whether it's on a piece of paper or on screen or something like that, or in an actual presentation?
I think the general rule of thumb is to use one paper per minute on a presentation.
It depends on what is on the topic. So if you have like a picture where there are various parts that you want to show and explain, then maybe you will be on one single slide for more than a minute as you move your focus from one part of the picture to another part. For instance, if you want to show the motherboard of your gaming computer, you might have to spend some time on each component for a little bit of time. So what you need to do is to put something to help highlight which portion of the motherboard you're focusing on. And the device that I'm going to bring in has a feature of zooming too. So I think it has a digital zoom of up to 8 times. So you can actually zoom into one portion, and then you can just pan the piece of paper so that people looking at the screen will be looking at different portions of that piece of paper. I'll bring it in as soon as I get it, so that you can see what it is and what you can do with it. Okay. Any other questions? But what if it's all text? What if it's really just talking about certain points and concepts that you are sharing with the class? I would say about 5 to 7 items on each page, and it doesn't have to be complete sentences. It can be just points. Okay, because what it is really just for something for people to focus on, and also as a reminder to yourself what you're supposed to talk about. Okay, you don't want it to make it like complete sentences and paragraphs, because that's just way too much. Or if you do it that way, you can do what I usually do in the class. You can just highlight the sentence or the part that you're focusing on. Yep.
So like illustration aids are not necessarily like required. Like don't need to necessarily have like a pie chart or a flow chart or something like that. Though it's effective, it doesn't need to be like required in order to have a decent grade.
So it just basically has to be an effective way of getting the point across.
Yes.
I think they just cut off life support here. They're diverting all power to the warp drive. I never realized how noisy the AC or the blower is until it's off. Then it's like, wow. Because I can hear the fan from the projector itself, which I never heard before. That's awkward. It's so quiet, it's awkward. Somebody make some noise, please, quickly. Okay, thank you. Now I feel much more comfortable. Okay, so organization is also important. Well organized with an overview and then the topics to flow, logically. So you basically just want to give people an idea of what you're going to talk about. Just quickly go through, okay, today I'm going to talk about this particular topic. I will first talk about this, and then this, and then this, and I'll make a conclusion. And then you actually go in and talk about the specifics. I will make a presentation like that. I will make a 3-minute presentation on Thursday with the visual aid and stuff like that. Just kind of give you an idea of what I think would be an average, kind of presentation that I'm expecting. So this way, you have an idea of, how to do something like that. That'd be okay? Knowledge, expertise, in other words, whatever you want to talk about, you should be an expert of some kind in that particular area, so that when you talk about it, you'll be able to talk with confidence, and whatever you talk about, is actually correct and complete. So I would not pick something about computer art because I know nothing about art. Okay, but I can pick something about maybe computer security, algorithms, programming, and that sort of thing. So pick whatever you feel comfortable with and feel whatever, this is what I really use computers for. Even though we are not all programmers or computer scientists, in this class, I'm pretty sure you use computers for one thing or another, more so than other people. So pick that, as a topic, okay? As long as it is related to the class and not offensive. Okay, so I didn't say anything about that, but I really should emphasize, do not put anything that's offensive, into your presentation. Any questions? Any questions about what may be considered offensive? Yep.
Yeah, not being offensive, but no. The reason I'm asking, you say pick something that you know knowledge of. I mean, that's just like I know knowledge of video and audio, but with up under me, I'm a telecommunication analyst.
Okay.
And I'm kind of wondering if I decide to do something about the telecommunication analyst stuff, I mean, can I do it? And
maybe you can talk about how computers are used in telecommunication.
Well, see, the thing about it is that, I'm up under VIA and stuff like that, Toshiba and all that. And we use a certain software, computer-wise, basically now, it's an ASA. You just use the computer and just to be able to program, do all certain programs that you need to turn around and do for phone systems. So, I mean, if I decide to do that, I mean, a lot of people are going to be lost behind it because a lot of people are not going to know what a VIA do, what a phone system is. So,
and then it's your job to explain it so that everybody can understand.
Up under 3 minutes, that's hard.
Well, then you have to
find
find a scope. You have to define a scope where you can actually do it in 3 minutes and still have the audience to kind of feel that, oh, okay, this is the presentation. I can see this is the beginning and this is the end and this is what I learned from the presentation.
Well, like I said, that's kind of hard because, I mean,
well, then you know my job. Then you know how hard it is to teach this class.
On a basic level, I can turn around and show a person how to understand the basic, but to understand the basic, it's going to take at least about 2 or 3 hours. So therefore, if I'm trying to show you within 3 minutes, you're going to be lost because everything that I'm trying to teach you.
Okay, but there are different things you can show. Instead of showing people how to do something, you can first show people what it is. Okay. And why does it matter, to the corporation or the organization that you work with? What is the purpose of doing what you're doing, and what is it? Okay, so you can do that first without sharing, how to do something. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yep. So that is something that you can explain, because most people can get that, pretty quickly and understand, why you're doing it and what that you are doing. Explaining how to do something can be very, very technical and difficult, but just to explain what that you're doing, can be, that should be okay. It's kind of like, I can give you an example. There are people who in SMUD, our utility company in Sacramento, and there are people who fly helicopters to repair power lines. Okay. So they would basically hover over a power line and then drop someone to do some repairs, okay? So the question now is, if that is, okay, obviously that has nothing to do with computers, but in that particular, setting, to explain how to do it will take at least a year, right? I mean, all the safety protocols and blah, 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 technical stuff, this is the kind of code that we use, blah, 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 that can take, a lot of time. Just hold on 1 second, okay? But to explain what it is, it doesn't take long, right? Okay, there are power lines, out there, and they're so high voltage that, any ground-based approach, can be dangerous, and that's why we have to fly a helicopter to hover over it, so that one, we can access it, because, there may not be a road leading to the power line, and two, because you're not grounded, you're also safer because you cannot form a path, a complete path for the electricity to flow through you. So that's how, you can differentiate between what you're doing as opposed to how you do it. Yep, go ahead.
Maybe like showing a version of several verses. You can explain that in 30 seconds. You can't really explain all the technical details
Right.
in like a couple hours.
Right, exactly.
We're talking about, like, say, breakdown of a Mercedes-Benz commercial. Like, for example, it's got the new Mercedes. They have like a dual camera system where they just scan the road for anything that might come in contact with the vehicle, and then they stop and they engage the brakes just milliseconds before.
I thought they would engage a Gatling gun
Maybe.
to clear the obstacle.
Yeah, kind of like that. But it's like those new systems now that there's like new systems like blind spot learning, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
They
what
focus on safety a lot. I think maybe they just break down that commercial for a 3-minute presentation instead. It's like give a brief overview of like how this.
I would think that's related to this class because without computer-based technology, that would not have been possible.
Right.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. I mean, it's just like when, like I said, I took Miss Harrison. I turned around, was an instructor one time, and I had a lot of electricians that didn't know nothing about phone systems, and I had to break down the course to where I showed it was a kind of a cheat sheet. It basically showed you what you need to do if something happens on a phone system. I understand what you're saying. Everyone I was asking, if I turn around and explain it, do I need to turn around and explain it up under the 3-minute point where it's just stating that this was the system is, this is what it does, that's it, going about your business.
Right. But it's kind of like this class is trying to condense everything that has to do with ICT, information and computer technology, into one 3-unit class. I mean, that's like compressing a lot of stuff into a very short amount of time. So I cannot possibly cover everything in detail, and it's an overview kind of class. It's a just exposure, and you can do the same thing with your presentation. Yep, go ahead.
Can I talk about either Steve Jobs or Bill Gates entrepreneur?
Only if it is in the sense that it is related to what we talked about in this class, like how they impacted the computer industry, their contribution, and what things will or will not be with or without them. Okay, so before I answer any more questions, I'll go ahead and give you guys this. This is a presentation request that you have to do, and there's a due date to it too. So let me just click it. And I cannot answer the question, but that's fine because I can give you a preview of what it looks like. There are only 5 questions. So in this questionnaire, what you need to do, and this counts for like 10 points of your score too. The first thing you want to do is to kind of state your topic and title of your presentation. You don't have to settle on the final one. I'm not going to hold you accountable and say, oh, you changed one word of your title. I cannot let you, change that one word. Just give me a general idea of, the title of your presentation. Give me a long description of your presentation. Just describe, what you plan to include in your presentation. Tell me how your presentation or the topic of your presentation relate to this class. And and then 4 and 5 has to do with what is the first choice of your presentation date, and then what is the second choice of your presentation date. Okay. Now in this case, in terms of the presentation dates, I have already updated the calendar of this class to include the 3 days for presentations. Basically the next the last 3 classes of this class, they're all presentations. So starting next Tuesday, we can have presentations already. So on the 7th of May, the 9th of May, and also the 14th of May, those are the 3 days that we can use for presentations. I don't think we have to use up all 3 days entirely. So depending on how many people signed up on Tuesday, Thursday, and then the following Tuesday, we can do some arrangements. Like, I can have my, continue to have class presentation or class content, or, whatever we need to do for those days. Yep.
We're going to have extra credit that we start the first day.
Say again?
We're going to have an extra credit that we start the first day of the presentation.
I don't think we have to use up all 3 days.
I know, I mean, if we choose to get our presentation the first day.
If there are too many people who want the first day or the last day, typically, then I will have to do it in a lottery style. Basically, use random, use something random to choose who will get the first choice. If there are too many people listing one particular day as first choice, then I'll do it by lottery.
No, what I say is that in speech class, most likely the people who signed for the first day of presentation, they got a 5 points extra because they are the first one.
They got a what?
5 points.
Do we get
5
extra
points?
credit if we sign up
Extra
first?
credit for being the first to present.
First.
First day.
And your speech class has that.
Yeah,
People who pick the
because,
first day
most
has
likely
extra
nobody
credit.
wants to be the first one. They want to be the
That's
last
not how
one.
it is in high school.
I don't think there will be extra credit. It's all going to be based on the content, of what is actually in the presentation. And I'm not going to let people, who do the presentation first to set quote unquote the bar for all the rest. So I'm going to have, I have kind of my own, absolute standard that applies to everybody. But just for your own benefit, you might want to pick an earlier day so you can just, I'm done with it. Now I'm just enjoying all the rest of the presentations.
Is this our final?
No, we have a final exam also, on the final exam day.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep, go ahead.
So we don't have any exams until the final exam?
We don't have any exam until the final exam. We're skipping exam 2, basically. So we'll use the homework and all the other stuff to kind of make up for the points, too.
So you want to
Any-
break it on, when we do our presentation, want to bring on a flash drive or SD drive? Or
It's entirely up to you, as long as your drive doesn't have anything that can infect this computer. Sometimes you may not even know that your flash drive may have something, right? That would make a very good topic for the next presenter. It's like, okay, how not to infect another computer. No, yes, absolutely. You can bring your flash drive to have your presentation file if you want to. You can use Prezi or Google Drive, so you can have your presentation cloud-based. You can bring in the pile of paper if you want it to be a paper-based presentation. So you have all these options to bring in, the actual, content for your presentation. The most important part is up here, though. Okay, the organization, the actual presentation is all up here. So, definitely get enough rest before the presentation, and make sure you rehearse, a few times before you actually do the presentation. Yep.
So I can choose, either Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. Can I choose?
Well, turn in your, presentation request, and then I'll take a look at the details of what you plan to include in your presentation. In other words, reading the biography of Bill Gates or Steve Jobs cannot count, okay, because it's not your own material. So whatever you present has to be your own material, it has to be in your own words, your own material, and your own presentation.
Well, I mean, it's not exactly the biography. It's just it's related with the entrepreneur, business that he acquired since he was a child.
Okay.
And he developed, and how Microsoft Office came along in order to, monopolize the IBM.
Okay. Well, do your request, and I'll take a look. Go ahead.
I have a question about how we're in requirements on the internet. How do we get that as far as for research? Are there any requirements that we need?
You can do research in any way you want, for your presentation content. But I wouldn't do it during the presentation.
Okay.
questions?
Yeah. I'm a little confused about the writing part. Do we need to do a paragraph or just do graphic designs have to have sentences and paragraphs?
There is no writing part. This is a presentation, so whatever you need to present the visual content is the only part that is quote unquote written. I mean, for some people that may not be written at all.
Can I write it?
We don't have to.
You mean handwrite it?
Sort of like scripted.
As far as what to read for the presentation.
Okay, now I know we are running out of time. Let me see if you, okay. So the danger of having a full script in a presentation is you may lose eye contact because of that. Okay, I have done it many times myself. When I was a teaching assistant, is if I over prepare and I have an actual script, word for word, sentence for sentence in the presentation, I'll be reading it like this for the entire presentation. Okay, so what you need to do is to be so familiar with your own presentation that you only need cues for, okay, this is what I need to talk about next. Okay, this is what I need to talk about next. Just 1 or 2 words. Okay, and then so when you look at your own, basically cheat sheet, you don't have to look and go and then read it out. Okay, you just say, oh, next I have to talk about the GPU. Okay, now let's take a look at the picture. The GPU is right over here, and I chose this one for my gaming computer because da 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 da. Yep.
I was originally going to say it's just easier to memorize a few ideas that you know a lot about versus a whole script that you have to memorize.
Right. Being familiar with the subject matter and having the organization in your head is the most important part. What you display on the screen is a cue to remind yourself, okay, this is the next thing I have to talk about, but you don't want to have a full script ready because, otherwise most people will just be reading. And we don't have one of those things, where presidents can do, what is the name of that thing? Teleprompter. Okay. Teleprompter kind of makes it difficult when you have an audience like this because you will need the teleprompter to move to, so that way you appear to be looking at the people, but you're actually reading it off the screen. Yeah.
How about flashcards?
Flashcards is okay, but just make sure that the bottom line is you need to look at the grading rubric and make sure you hit all the points. Okay, you can write on your own palm if you want to. Okay, the point is are you going to be reading it like this or are you going to be this and then talk about it?